We've heard this before, but it keeps coming out. Orlando Magics. They had a chance to get Grant Hill and Tim Duncan back in the day, right? And it came out that Tim Duncan was not allowed to bring his family on the team plane, and he did not sign with the Orlando Magics.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Nowadays,
It's a poor decision.
Yeah.
Nowadays, back then, Doc probably didn't have the power, or that wasn't what other players wanted.
Right.
But nowadays, you see, it's a lot of teams that just this is what it is. Like the family travels, and so they missed out on the dynasty
Straight up.
because of the rules of not having your family travel with you on the road. And Tim Duncan wanted to do that.
I understand that. When in Miami, we couldn't have nobody. Don't even think about asking that. You know what I mean? But then as soon as I leave Miami for 6 years, I go to Golden State, and they like, yeah, you could do this. I'm like, well, you could bring somebody on the plane? You could bring your homie? They looking at me like, yeah. Like, I'm like, bro, I'm not used to these, these rules and, no real discipline around here. So I didn't know you can do that because I just spent 6 years of don't even think about asking nothing crazy like that. Even for the finals, I know it was hard for families to get there. You remember that? We had our own room and then a connector room for your family during the finals in 06, man. So that's crazy. I never knew that.
They came in for one game in 06. They came in for the closeout game. That was the only time they can come in. They was not able to travel with us in none of the finals. That was a rule set by Pat. The families could not travel. But they was allowed to come and stay at the hotel with us and be there for Game 6 when we end up obviously closing out and winning the championship. But yeah, the family couldn't roll with us. Yeah.
So y'all both went somewhere else after Miami and had obviously a different experience. And you were probably like, oh,
freedom.
Like for real. But
freedom.
Looking back, how do you think about it now? Looking back that you went to Golden State and saw like, yo, you can do this, you can do that. You went to Chicago and they had the barber. I remember when we went there, they had a barber inside.
Right before every game.
Right. So you was doing stuff that you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that freedom felt good, but did you feel like long term, or did you see why there was a separation between those places for you as well as for Miami?
Heck yeah. You just be looking around like, bro, this is not the NBA. And I remember guys coming to Miami like, young fella, this is not the NBA. Like, you missing out on so much. I'm like, that's all I know. So when I got to these other places, it was cool to have your freedom and, kind of be who you want to be and do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, when those results aren't coming, because we weren't that good. So it's like, we need some damn discipline around here. That's why we're losing. You know what I mean? And then that following year, that's when Joe Lacob, Peter Guber, and all these guys took over and changed the whole organization.
You brought structure.
They're number 2 now. They leaped the Lakers as far as
I saw that. They like
$7 billion.
They like $9 billion or something.
Yeah, they're the second team behind the Knicks as far as value in franchise.
Absolutely.
And that's what Joe Lacob, Peter Guber, what they've done with that organization, the arena that they built. And then you have a superstar like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. The value of that team is just going to keep going up. But yeah, man, it was just crazy.
That type of structure would save a lot of the young guys' career that I deal with. It should be a system in place to where, when you're at year 4, you can bring your wife on or certain things like that. But like young guys need structure because you go from almost like high school to where you're 8 hours of school. Then you have after school sports, unless you went to a basketball school where you were training for 4 or 5 hours because you're thinking about NBA, right? You go from college or you're taking classes and you're monitored. So time is kind of like always maximized. In the NBA, it's about time management.
Idle time for sure.
Right. Is a playground, And I think that type of structure is why you had such a long career. Because there's a lot of guys that are going to these teams that don't have that type of structure. And they're out of the league and they'll replace them because this is a replacement industry. Like you're always next up to be replaced. And if you don't give them the structure that's necessary, you just replace them. You just like, he's not as good as I thought he was. We got a ton of evaluation on him. And if someone else out there that maybe you had a draft workout with, I know kids don't understand that either. You had a draft workout and this other team cut you and that team picked you up because you killed in that draft workout. They couldn't get you in the draft, but they want you. They may give you a second chance. So you see guys get second chances, but that type of structure Miami have, it's important because most of Miami rookies play pretty good years in the league. They get 10 years in the league.
Yeah, for sure.
They learn how to be a pro first.
Right.
Then
Say it again.
you learn how to be a pro
You
first.
have to learn how to be a pro.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I think that's the hard thing.
That's the hard
great,
thing.
yeah.
So that structure, because he may not be Flash without that structure.
Oh no, I wouldn't be.
Right.
Not a kid from the hood with millions.
In Miami.
In Miami,
Right.
it's
Oh,
over with. You never heard of me before. So my take is, you know when you get a substitute teacher
Yeah.
versus your regular teacher.
Yeah.
You have your normal homeroom teacher. You know the rules. You stick by them. When you get that sub, you be shooting in the garbage can.
Yeah.
Yo,
Sagging.
Raising hell.
it is
Raven.
rambunctious in
Hell,
there.
what?
Yes.
The sub don't get no
The
respect.
sub looking at the seating assignments and
Bro,
like,
you ain't sitting-
Wade, ain't you, what you doing over there?
Yeah, bro.
That's how I was leaving Miami going to Chicago. I got a substitute teacher, and I was out there like, yo, D-Ray, throwing them lives in class, right? And then that was cool because I had never experienced that before. I had 14 years at that time of strict structure, even to the point where like I started getting my own brands and I started wearing my own shirts, and I was getting fined because I wasn't wearing heat gear, and I'm hot.
Yeah.
Me and KA had a whole battle about that, right?
Yeah.
And so the structure was so structured that once I got out, I was like,
Ooh.
freedom.
Yep.
So I was enjoying the freedom. I can fly back on a PJ to come to Miami in the middle of the season and have a party at my house.
Right. I remember that. I remember
the
that.
freedom was great until it got to winter time. And you realize once you get to winter time, ain't no fucking structure.
Yeah.
Right.
And even to the point where we talking about, like in Miami, when we ran through our plays, we ran through our sets. It doesn't matter if you're the first unit, second unit, whatever unit. You're gonna know these sets. You're gonna do it over and over and over till you learn it. When I was in Chicago, I mean, I would see the second unit run through the set, fuck it up, and they just move on. And I was like, wait. They're not gonna know how to if they can't execute this play right here with 5 on 0. There's no way you executing this play on a road with 20,000 people screaming at you in winning time.
Very true.
Very
And so
true.
once I got a chance to see what accountability was versus non-accountability, you see, I got back to Miami. Let me find my way back to
That's
this
it.
accountability
Yeah.
because that's where I'm my best at. And so the non-accountability, the freedom of it, man, it feels great. But ultimately, if you want to be great, if you care to be good, you need structure and you need accountability.
I agree.
Simply put.